everyone, and welcome back to the Drag Reduction Sisters podcast. My name is Danny, and I'm joined today by Niamh, and for the first time, Lexi!
Hey!
Woo!
Thank you for having me.
Lexi is one of our favourite Drag Reduction Sisters, although you haven't heard from her before. But she's here for a very special reason today, aren't you, Lexi? Do you want to tell everyone why you're here?
I went to Silverstone at the weekend. It was the best day ever, and I think everybody in my life is sick of me talking about it already, and it's only been a couple of days. But it was just the best experience. I'm trying to encourage all the Drag Reduction Sisters to try and get to a race. We were only there on the Saturday. We didn't go for the race. I was actually quite glad about that yesterday when we were sat on the sofa watching, because I feel like we would have missed out on a lot of action. As much as there was loads going on the track, I think it was great to be able to see all of the drama at the time that it happened. But we went on the Saturday, so we got wet quali, we got F2, F3, W Series, Porsche Super Cup. Oh, it was just perfection. It was so good.
And I'm not at all jealous.
Yeah. We'll go next year.
I think we all should. I think Drag Reduction Sisters meet up.
We will soon, the three of us, so.
Yes, that's exciting news.
Yeah.
But that's not what today's episode is about.
No, today's episode is about Silverstone. What a Grand Prix that was.
I don't think it's going to be topped. Honestly,
I think it's the best of the season so far, and probably will be the best of the season for the rest of the season.
Hands down, there was so much drama and so much excitement, and just such a great feeling over the whole weekend.
Definitely. It had a lot of expectations, and it lived up to every single one of them.
I would say it exceeded some of those expectations.
Every single day was just content. The quali was brilliant. It was a wet quali. The race was insane, and we'll get onto that. Even the free practices were good. Except for the first one, that basically didn't happen.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
That didn't count. It was the free practice that never was. Oh, I loved this race weekend. What an excellent race weekend from start to finish.
It was just non-stop. There was just something going on all the time. Good vibes. Ted was on form. Sign the go. He was brilliant. I loved Ted on the grid, crouching, trying to get a look at Charles's car before the race. That was quality journalism from Ted. Really committed, really put his body on the line for the cause. It was just a great weekend. No notes. Couldn't have gone any better, I think.
So, regular listeners to our podcast will know that we do our DRS, which usually stands for Drag Reduction Sisters, or Drag Reduction System, depending on how you look at it. But on our podcast, it stands for Drama, Results, and whatever you can think of that starts with S. And we're going to use this to discuss the race. So, we'll start with D, we'll start with Drama, and boy, was there a lot of drama.
Yeah, I'm looking through the list, and we have a lot of topics, but I think the first one to say would have to be lap one, and whatever the heck happened there.
Lap one that wasn't even really a lap, because so much happened.
So we had two separate crashes, but occurring at the same time, and then it just led to this domino effect where they all collided together. And it was terrifying.
Well, to be fair, I think the second crash happened because of the first crash.
As in Alex's happened because of Joe's?
Well, looking at the footage, George crashed into Joe, who crashed into a load of other people. And then I can't remember who was in front of Alex. It might have been Bottas.
I don't know.
Yes.
I think it was Bottas. Bottas broke, obviously, so he didn't crash into everyone. Alex broke. Alex broke and Seb clipped his back wheel, which spun him into the wall, and then he bounced off the wall back into oncoming traffic. That's what happened with Alex, I think. But that was as a result of the braking of all the cars in front of him, so it wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't Seb's fault.
And Danny Rick was so close to being caught up in that. Did you? I don't know if you saw how, there must have been millimeters from him. I think he did take some damage, but he was so close to being fully wiped out in all of that.
Sorry.
I'm surprised Yuki and Esteban were back from that, because that's who Alex hit into. I thought they were going to be out of that race afterwards. I don't know how they managed to fix them in time for the red flag.
It was quite incredible, wasn't it?
Well, there was a lot of people caught up in that crash. And out of all of them, the only ones that DNF'd in that crash was Alex, obviously, Joe, obviously, and George, who technically didn't need to DNF.
Yeah, really none of them were actually really to blame for either of the incidents.
This is the thing, right? I've seen a lot of discussion about whether it was George or Pierre's fault for the Joe crash. And I'm not sure. I think it could definitely be argued that both of them were involved. You know, George moving in and closing a gap when Pierre was clearly going for it to block him off. So people are saying George caused the crash by driving into Pierre. But then also Pierre was going for a gap that clearly wasn't there. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an incident.
Yes.
just
I don't think anyone's at fault for it. It just, somehow, it's one of those crashes where such little actions cause such a big collision for just no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. And honestly, they're very lucky that everyone was able to walk away from that okay. Although Alex, weirdly enough, so Joe, even though he did a barrel roll, he was okay, but Alex somehow was in the hospital and taken away by helicopter.
When they mentioned that Alex was being airlifted to Coventry as well, my blood kind of ran cold because I was like, wow, there's Northampton, there's Milton Keynes just down the road, and you're going to Coventry. Like, oh my God, I hope he's okay. Thankfully, he was. And I'm sure there was a very good reason why they took him to Coventry. Like, there must have been better scanners or whatever there. But yeah, wow, scary moment.
Definitely. I mean, there's that great footage, I don't know if you've seen it, of some of the marshals running to help Alex, and Alex sort of points them to go and help Joe.
Yeah. And then there was George, ran over straight away as well.
I've just thought of something for drama. The protesters.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was the most useless protest in the world because they ran out onto the track hoping to disrupt the race, but the race had already been disrupted because Joe crashed. So they achieved absolutely nothing, got absolutely zero airtime. When I first heard there was going to be protesters, I thought it was going to be Extinction Rebellion or Stop Oil, or I think they're saying it is Stop Oil, but I'm not sure.
I think it was, yeah.
It was.
Whoever they were, they looked like the most incompetent group of protesters I've ever seen, because I've seen the footage. They just sat on the track, and half a second later the marshals just pulled them up, and that was it. Absolutely nothing achieved. I mean, I don't even think they knew there was a red flag at that point.
I don't think they did. Did. They were just there to get the attention and the coverage, and I actually feel really conflicted talking about it because they put so many people's lives at risk from that silly stunt, and I'm not going to bring the politics into it at all, but it was just downright dangerous, regardless of what your beliefs are and in the cause. I think they make very good points, but Ted made some excellent points on his notebook because we all love Ted. Formula One is doing so much to improve the chances of not relying on fossil fuels anymore and, you know, going to these new eco fuels that are completely synthetic and carbon neutral, etc. So all of the developments that you see in Formula One eventually filter down to road cars, and we're going to see that play out in our lifetime. So it felt very misguided, and climate is incredibly important. You know, we all love Seb, we support him in his messaging, we all believe in that. But it just comes down to the fact that they really risked people's lives. And we saw that happen before. We've seen incidents in the past where Formula One cars have hit people, and it never ends well.
I was going to say, thankfully Joe and Alex were okay, because it ended with just 2 people going to the medical centre or hospital. Imagine how many more it could have been had we not had the red flag at the start.
Well, I think the thing that frustrates me the most about this is it's not just putting their own lives at risk, they're putting the marshals' lives at risk, who are volunteers. They're putting the drivers' lives at risk, and it's not fair, regardless of your opinion, to be putting other people's lives at risk, innocent people's lives at risk, because of your protesting. If you're putting your own life at risk, that's your personal choice, but other people's is a bit different. But I think the thing that irks me the most about this entire thing is it's not good awareness raising. I think Sky did a fantastic job this weekend, and I'm not one to usually support big corporations, especially Sky. As a Sky customer myself, I'm not the biggest fan of Sky. they basically own a monopoly on sport and TV in this country, and make it so that you're not able to support the sports you love unless you pay a ridiculous amount extra on top of what you already pay. So I'm not the biggest fan of Sky and how they handle things. I just wanted to preface that. However, what they were doing over the weekend was excellent. The coverage they had, the way that the presenters talked about the climate was fantastic. I also think, and I'm not going to go into the issues of what happened with Nelson Piquet and what happened with Yuri Vips, because I think that that's something for another day. I do not think that we need to be talking about that right now. I also think the Sky coverage about those issues was excellent as well. I think they did a fantastic job of talking about those issues, bringing them up, raising them, discussing them, and not just hiding them away, actually bringing them to the surface. I think that was fantastic. So I'm very pleased with how Sky have handled themselves this weekend, given everything. I think it was just well put out to the audience of people watching it, saying that if you want to save the planet, do it with the sports that you love, because that is the exact message you need to get across to that target audience of people who enjoy sport. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to try and convert people to supporting this cause. Disrupting the sports they love is only going to turn them against the cause, so those protesters are only going to turn people against what is essentially a very good cause. But what Sky were doing and framing it in that way, that we need to do our bit, otherwise it's going to affect the things we love, and that includes football, that includes golf, that includes tennis, that includes Formula One. I think that was really well put across, and it was really nice to see the things they were doing around Silverstone as well in terms of sustainability. I really liked the bin that said Mercedes or Red Bull, and you had to put which one in the bin. I loved that.
We need to talk about George Russell.
I'm so mad for him, genuinely. He didn't even think about it. He hopped straight out of that car and went to check on Joe, like, without any thought of himself. And it ended up biting him in the arse. And that's such a shame.
What a George Russell thing to do, though. Like, what a George Russell way to get out of the race.
It's just crazy. I mean, he did apparently say to the marshals, leave the car there, I'm going to drive it back. He couldn't get it restarted, but he said he jumped back out of the car to get someone to help. Now, I don't know how F1 cars work very well, so I don't know whether you can, like, push start an F1 car.
I don't know if you're allowed to actually...
Well, they said it was the mechanical assistant, so they said it was the car. So it seemed like if he did get back in the car, he would have been able to drive it back. It seemed that it was just the going on the back of the lorry that caused the issue. But he did say he wasn't able to start the car, so how was he planning to start the car? Like I said, can you push start an F1 car? I don't know.
Does that count as assistance? Like, if he's not getting away under his own steam?
Either way, it's rough because, looking back at it, he did just have a puncture. If he hadn't got out of that car to help Joe, he could have probably just driven that straight back.
Yeah, and also, he probably could have been on the podium. Like, I would have seen him on the podium being more likely than Lewis, because he's already up ahead anyway. I think that's the next thing we should talk about, the podium itself, and more specifically, Ferrari. Because that podium probably wouldn't have happened had Carlos actually followed those team orders.
Carlos Sainz, smooth operator.
Smooth operator. What a race from him. He showed such great racecraft throughout the whole thing. Like, he showed real maturity from all of his experience he's gained over the years. I thought that was a real moment of him stepping into and being like, guys, come on, I know what I'm doing. I think this is a mistake. Please listen to me. And fair play to him. It could have backfired massively, but it worked.
Could hear like the desperation in his voice on the radio. Like, he was like, please, come on, like, just listen to me. And then he realized, no, this is Ferrari. They're not going to listen to me.
I feel like, actually, Carlos has done something that if Charles did more, because if Charles didn't listen to Ferrari more often and took control of the situation more often, it might actually help him out. Because it's Ferrari's poor choices that get him where he is. It's Ferrari not pitting Charles in that race that lost him those positions. And it would have been Ferrari losing them both the chance of a podium if Carlos had listened to them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he was on used hards. There's no way that he was going to be able to keep up the lead.
And thank God that Carlos listened, because I've seen people having a go online, obviously, because people always do that. But I've seen people having a go at Carlos online and saying that he isn't a team player or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think that's the best kind of team player you can be, someone who uses their initiative for the good of the team. If he hadn't have done that, if he hadn't have gone, do you know what, guys? I'm in the car right now. I know what I'm seeing and I know what's going to happen. And I know that if I try and defend this position for Charles, Hamilton will go straight past me. And he knew that. So he ignored them.
Yeah, but that's exactly, like, Carlos has always been on the ball with strategy. And I said it before, like, in a conversation. Even last year in Hungary, he was telling the Ferrari strategists what Lewis's strategy was when he was coming to catch him. He was like, no, I actually know what he's doing right now. I'm going to tell you. And he did it again. Like, in Monaco, they were trying to pit him, and he was like, no, why are you doing this? I'm going to stay out, and then I'll change to this tire. Like, he's on the ball. And I'm really glad it paid off from today, because there's been too many times where he hasn't been given the chance because either the car has just gone itself, or there was some gravel nearby and he had to pay a visit. But I'm glad that he took initiative today, and I think that is something Charles should do more often. But I also understand why Charles might be afraid to do it, because he's in a top team, and you know, like we've seen stuff in the past with like Seb, where if you disobey the team orders, then how does that go?
Yeah, and we've seen it play out with McLaren recently as well. Like I know our lovely Archie went into great detail about the McLaren strategy in the Baku and Montreal episode, so I won't rehash that. But I feel like Ferrari do the same as McLaren. Sometimes they do choose a strategy or choose to sort of continue on with a strategy that isn't working to the detriment of the team result for a particular driver or a particular result at times. And that's going to cost them. Like ultimately, this is going to be a very hard contested year. It's not just on performance. It's about reliability as well. We've already seen their engines blow up how many times now? These are things that are going to add up and really make a difference at the end of the year.
Definitely. Like I said it, that it's not going to be Charles who will lose the championship. It's Ferrari will lose his championship. It's funny you bring up McLaren, because they had a bit of trouble this week as well with cars and then the pit stop strategy stuff.
Obviously, as a McLaren fan, I was quite disappointed with how it turned out. Not because of the results per se. I mean, obviously, Daniel's position was rough, but he had a mechanical issue, which we'll quickly move on to in a second. But Lando got P6, which in McLaren standards at the moment is good, but I can't help but wonder what could have been if McLaren just used a single brain cell in their head.
Yeah, it's painful to watch, isn't it?
Well, it's frustrating, because I did see on the McLaren app that they were discussing with Lando about going from mediums onto softs, because they'd seen that, I think it was Esteban Ocon had done 22 laps on the softs, and they were past the point where there was less than 22 laps left of the race, and Lando was still on the mediums, and they were basically saying, we can put you straight on the softs. And then he goes into the pits, he puts the hards on. Why? Because then 3 laps later there's a safety car, he goes back in and puts softs on.
We saw a similar thing with Danny as well. Like, I just don't understand why they're making the strategy calls. And then when they're getting to the pit stops, they're executing them so poorly, which is so unlike them. They had it down so well last season, and it's just turned into a bit of a mess, honestly.
Well, even at the start of this season, they were nailing the pit stops.
I think they were the fastest in Bahrain,
They were. Bahrain, and I think for a couple of races after. And now their pit stops just keep messing up. I can't help but think, like with the Lando situation, if he had gone straight onto softs, he would have come out of that safety car. He would have been the only car other than Charles to not pit under the safety car. So realistically, he may have been up there in the top 3 or 4. He definitely would have finished ahead of Alonso. And there's a chance he would have been up there in that battle at the end. Now, I'm not saying he would have got a podium, but I'm saying he would have been up there naturally, just simply because he would have been ahead of them.
And look how close he was in that 5-way battle.
Yeah, he did kind of give up at the end, but that was just because I think there was no hope for him to catch up. But he was fighting. He was so close to that battle for the entire time. It's frustrating. I'm sure McLaren in hindsight are thinking the same thing, but what good is hindsight? If I'm sitting here, I would have pitted him for softs, and I am not a strategist in any way, shape or form. So why are they pitting him for hards?
I don't know. But they put Daniel on softs earlier, and I was so confused. I was like, what the hell? And then I found out that there was a problem with his DRS. I had no idea.
Yeah, he did 21 laps with no DRS because it got stuck open. They brought him in again. They had to manually close his DRS. And Tom was on the radio basically saying, you can't use DRS because there's a risk it might get stuck open. Now, given the fact of where he was off that additional pit stop, he was like, I think he was probably 14th or even 13th at that point. His race was done. There was no way he was going to ever catch up. Before all of that debacle, he was running in 8th. I know that he was sort of slightly out of phase because of pit stops, etc. But there was a chance there. Why not just risk it? Use the DRS. Like, somebody's probably going to tell me why I'm wrong and they can't do it. But use the DRS. If it gets stuck open again, retire the car. Take the risk.
They must have been certain that it was going to get stuck open again, I assume. Because otherwise, yeah, why not? But then I don't know if that's true because I don't trust McLaren at this point.
But also, it makes you think, if they knew it would get stuck open and they were thinking, well, Daniel's not going to make up any positions here, why not just retire the car then? Why are you wasting the engine and potentially risking another accident with how everything else has gone? I don't know. They make it difficult to support McLaren.
It's tough. I really feel for Daniel. He's having a really tough time. I'm really heartened to see that McLaren is starting to open up more about the challenges with the car. I know that Lando was, to a certain extent, flying as best as he could this weekend, but it's clear that the car isn't right. It's not working how it should. There's still the argument about whether they could bring the car closer to Daniel and his driving style. It's just really difficult. And I feel for the guy because he's had a run of terrible luck, to be honest with you. He's had some really good opportunities. There's been a lot of sessions where he's been either not very far off Lando or matching him or even exceeding his times, and then it just kind of all goes to pot because of strategy or mechanical failures, and it's just a tough time to be Daniel Ricciardo right now, I think.
Speaking of damage and bad strategies, Charles, his end plate, what was that all about? I watched the overtake with him and Checo, and Checo's car was damaged, and it ended up later damaging Verstappen, which is not a good look for Red Bull. But somehow Charles's end plate only took away like a tiny bit of his performance. It's just weird.
It's that Ferrari is insane. It's so quick. And just to throw it out there, because I was there obviously on Saturday, it sounds amazing. The engine is it's incredible. Like, it sounds so good, but they've got a really great car under them this year. And again, it comes back down to the only thing that can stop Ferrari is Ferrari.
Well, I was going to say, in terms of the thing about his front wing being knocked off, the end plate of his front wing, if I did that in the F1 2022 game and I slightly crashed into a wall on Monaco, I would not be able to turn the car. So...
Exactly. But I don't know, like, if that's the case, why do they have end plates? They said, they had some statistic, it was like 0.5% of a difference or something, which probably is huge, but...
I think the Ferrari is not such an aero-reliant car, though, like the Red Bull, for example. Like, they really clearly rely very heavily on their aero package, whereas I don't think Ferrari do as much. And I don't know if you saw, the thing that actually caught Max was off of the little tussle between Yuki and Pierre. Christian came out afterwards.
I thought it was Checo.
I thought it was Checo.
No, Christian came out afterwards and he said that there was a piece of AlphaTauri stuck into the bottom of Max's car that was costing him, it was like it had blown open the floor, essentially. Like, obviously, it hadn't happened quite like that, but that's how it was feeling in the car.
AlphaTauri. Well, firstly, Yuki's car gets messed up in the crash at the beginning. He manages to fix that. Then AlphaTauri do a lovely synchronized spin, and then poor Pierre has to retire the car. I'm still not quite sure why. Was it damage from the collision with Yuki?
Yes, it was.
I think so.
Yeah.
Why did it take so long to retire? Because I swear it wasn't like the next lap. It was like 5 laps later.
I honestly don't know. It was a fair while afterwards, but it may well be that they had something critical. Or hold on, was Pierre shown black and orange flags? Someone was shown flags. So perhaps there was something hanging off the car then.
And they just couldn't repair it.
They couldn't sellotape it this time.
And speaking of DNFs, Bottas as well. Terrible day for Alpha.
Yeah, what the heck was that? He just had a mechanical failure out of nowhere. Alfa Romeo need to sort their S out. Because if they're not getting points, it just means they're DNFing.
It's really terrible. And another race, obviously, for Joe not getting points, which I feel like he's overlooked by his crash, but he still hasn't scored points this race for something that isn't his fault. And that's a terrible record now. And it's just such a shame. Alpha really seem to have some issues going on there. Some major issues.
That Ferrari power unit.
It's Ferrari.
Yeah. All roads lead back to Ferrari and their power unit.
It has got to the point now, whenever I see a Red Bull or a Ferrari radio message come up, and I hear that doodaloo, I'm thinking, oh god, what's happened?
Yeah.
What's happened to the car? They're going to be losing power.
No, do you know whose car just hated them this weekend? And I have to stand up for him. Esteban. We don't count FP1, we don't count that because barely anyone did a lap in that. FP2, there was an issue, he was out for 15 minutes. FP3, and quali, there was another issue. And then the race, DNF.
They said at the beginning of the year, though, that they sacrificed reliability for performance. So I think it's playing out. That's what's going to make the rest of this season so exciting because, clearly they've got a good car under them that's capable of results. Nando's flying. It just falls apart. If it's not the side pods, it's something snapping and flooding the car and, oh, God.
It's crazy. Because honest to God, I was like, where are they in the standings? And I didn't realise that Esteban had double the amount of points of Alonso. I had no idea. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. How have I missed that entirely?
I know. They're going under the radar. I told you, I want my double Alpine podium.
Alonso has been on great form recently, but he wasn't at the start of the season. He's kind of come out of nowhere, and his form has been fantastic for the last few races. But Ocon's been consistent before that. Yeah, at the end of the day, they're fighting with McLaren. That's why it was so vital that Lando come out in front of Alonso, and he didn't. His race was with Alpine. Alpine and McLaren are fighting for that best of the rest right now.
Kind of wishes that he didn't leave Renault for McLaren now, huh?
Hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I want to say, speaking of best of the rest, because I'm referring to McLaren and Alpine as the best of the rest right now, because Mercedes are back up there being the best again.
They fixed it. The porpoising seems to be mostly gone. It was these new upgrades this weekend, wasn't it?
Lewis, I think, said he still had issues with porpoising, but it wasn't as bad as before.
Genuinely thought Lewis drove absolutely fantastically. And I'm not the biggest Lewis fan, surprisingly. But I really did. I voted for him for driver of the day because I thought he did fantastic. Now, Checo deserved that driver of the day because he did basically come from last to first, but he obviously not literally, but you know what I mean. He came from last to, what was it, second in the end? Third? Second. Which was insane. What a drive from Checo. But also Lewis, that Mercedes is fast, but it's not as fast as a Red Bull. And for him to fight up there with those Ferraris and with those Red Bulls and do some absolutely fantastic overtakes and battling, just the best battling I've seen for a very long time. That 5-person battle at the end, just fantastic. And I was really impressed by all of those drivers, really. And definitely, I think Lewis did a brilliant job, and the Mercedes did a brilliant job. And like we said earlier, if George hadn't DNF'd, I think he would have been up there as well. If we're talking about the R and we're talking about results, I think the double Haas points is definitely the highlight of the results for me.
Not only did Mick get his first points, but Kevin, he also got points.
For the first time this season, Gunter looked absolutely ecstatic.
Yeah. And did you hear it was Gina that was on the radio to Mick? Oh, that was so cute.
Very cute.
That was so very cute. And then Seb giving Mick a hug afterwards. And Seb got points as well on his birthday.
Oh.
Seb
after a terrible qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't remember who it was that said it. I'm sure one of the drivers or one of the principals said it, but they basically said that qualifying badly ended up being a blessing rather than a curse because it kept them out of that chaos at the start.
Yeah, I said that's how I do the online races in F1. Just let everyone else at the front go mad, and then I'll just swoop past. But you know who also needs to get a special mention? Okay, it didn't translate into a race result, But Latifi got into Q3.
Go
in the
TV!
old spec car too. The old spec car. That's something.
But honest God, I'm so proud of him because of all the rumours going around that he was going to get replaced by this week. And it's same with Mick as well. Like, it just kind of showed, no, don't count them out just yet. And Williams were so happy for him.
Look, as the number one Oscar Piastri fan, okay, it was hard for me at first, but now I realise I'm happy for Gotifi and for him getting into Q3. I mean, he didn't score any points in the end, so Oscar Piastri still has a chance, girls.
I'm not counting him out, don't worry. But I'm just saying, he at least has the rest of the season to race. No,
you're right. Yeah. I'm joking. I'm joking. I was very happy for Latifi to get into Q3. I think it was. I mean, it was funny though. Did you see during Q3 itself? He was like 30 seconds behind everyone else at the end. Everyone else had like their quali times, and his quali time was like 30 seconds behind. He'd basically gone, do you know what? I'm not meant to be here.
Do you know what he did? He was waiting while everyone else set their laps, and then it got wetter towards the end. So by the time he set a lap, it was already going to be slow anyway.
And seeing as you were there, what was it like in person? Seeing a wet quali in person?
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was just the most incredible experience, and it consumes kind of all of your senses. Like, we were sat in the stand. Everybody there, it felt like, in our stand on Club Corner was cheering for Lewis and George, and they were going wild for them. Every time they drove past, it was all about George and Lewis. So you got that. It was cold. It was wet. You could see the rooster tails coming off the car. The engines sound amazing. The cars look incredible, like even better in real life. There's a lot of the colours that I feel don't translate when you're watching on TV. Like, that Aston Martin green in real life is beautiful. And the colours on the McLaren, and actually the Red Bull as well, like the red and the yellow against that matte blue, really, really pops. They're super impressive. And actually what I was really struck by is they look a lot more solid, the cars on TV, than they are in real life. Like, every single corner they're coming out and they're quite twitchy. Like, they're much more twitchy than I thought they would be. And I know they've got immense amounts of downforce, but you don't see those like tiny, weeny little wiggles from the different views on TV. So that was something that I took away.
And also, you seen was it the medical car?
Yes. The medical car driver, every time he took the car through Vale Corner, he was hitting the sausage curb and going up onto two wheels and taking it on two wheels the whole way through that little chicane bit. The first time it happened, everyone, and it was massive as well. He went really violently up onto two wheels. Everyone went, oh my God, he almost just flipped the car. And then we realized, no, he's doing that on purpose. And he was doing it even during the races. Like, that's how confident he is in it. The support races, as he's driving around, he's putting it up on two wheels. Like, everybody's loving it in the crowd. Good vibes. It was amazing.
That sounds very, very fun. I have seen the footage. I didn't know whether he did it on purpose or not, but now knowing that he did it on purpose is even funnier to me. Like, what a mad lad.
Yeah, he was really hamming it up for the crowd. I mean, everybody that went past was hamming it up for the crowd. We had road sweeper races. Everybody was getting really into it.
It just sounds so much fun. I'd love to go to a race one day, a proper F1 race one day. Maybe next year.
We'll do it next year. We will do it next year for sure.
Okay, one more result, and I think it's probably the most important result that we haven't really discussed yet. Carlos not only getting his first pole, but his very first win.
Smooth operator!
I cried after quali. Like, he's not even one of my favourite drivers, but he's one of those drivers that I really liked when I first started getting back into Formula 1. So it was kind of like, in a weird way, seeing like a child succeeding. You're just like, I'm so proud of them. They come so far.
I loved that it was entirely deserved. The quali lap he did was fantastic, and the race was fantastic. It was his own intuition that got him where he was, his own decisions that got him to that podium. He worked for it, he drove for it, and he got it. And it just felt right.
It was so beautiful to watch, and what a way to do it. Like, a wet quali to stick that lap and put it on pole, incredible. And then to show the mental fortitude the whole way through the race, despite the fact that he almost lost that race like 3 times throughout the duration of it. He didn't give up. He kept on going. He still believed in himself. And oh my goodness, that was a long time coming, but wow, what a way for it to happen.
It was. Even with the restart, like the first start, Verstappen got the jump on him, but at the second restart, he was straight on it and he was flying ahead already, turn 1. And everyone else had to catch up behind him. And then his radio afterwards, he's always so like focused and he looks like he's still trying to comprehend what's happening. But on the radio, you could hear him getting quite emotional. And it was just nice to see, because I think Carlos is someone that's very logical about things. He likes to think things through. And it was nice to see him, even if we didn't get to see it ourselves, we could hear him having a moment to himself in that way.
It was so nice seeing him on the podium, wasn't it? I'm so sad that his dad wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like, we saw Checo's dad and Lewis's dad, and then bizarrely Tom Cruise. But yeah, I felt for him. Like, it seemed like a bit of a shame that his dad wasn't there. I don't think his girlfriend was there either. I didn't see her, but I mean, either way, I'm sure it was great, and I'm sure he's going to get to celebrate with everybody that he loves the most. But yeah, I was watching him closing his eyes, soaking it all in, just properly committing every moment to memory, and it was just beautiful.
It's obvious why Lewis got more of a reaction, because it was the British Grand Prix. But I do wish that people kind of gave Carlos the applause that he deserved for that win.
Yeah.
Maybe they did, I wasn't there. But on the TV, it sounded very much like people were more happy about Lewis's 3rd place than Carlos's win, which I was a bit upset about. But it's the British Grand Prix, and they all love Hamilton.
Next week is Austria, so they're going to get their arses kicked by all the Max fans there, so it evens out.
And we were all cheering on Carlos from our sofas around the world, so you know, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, well, I was probably screaming.
Yeah, I was too.
I was on the edge of my seat for every single lap of that race. I don't think there was a single lap where I was like checking my phone, or where I was like, oh, I'm going to have a toilet break now, or anything like that. There was like no time where I wanted to leave the sofa.
Fair play to Carlos. I'm really proud of him. And hopefully that's the first of many wins.
There was a moment during that race where I thought, hold on, is this going to be the undoing of the beautiful relationship that we've seen blossom between Charles and Carlos? But fair play to Charles. He really handled the whole thing beautifully. I know we saw him get a bit of a ticking off or a bit of a preparatory briefing from Mattia, but he handled it with such grace, and he was so happy for Carlos, and that was really great to see as well. Like, he wasn't bitter or annoyed that that came at his detriment, which he could very well have been. And I think in a year where he is ultimately, you know, of the 3 contenders for the WDC this year, he could have taken it really quite hard, and he didn't let it slip.
Very respectful.
I do think,
yes.
I know it was discussed at the start of the season whether or not they would end up in some sort of rivalry. I think it was predicted that they wouldn't be friends by the end of the year. I don't mean to start a fight here, but I still think that could happen. I think this could be the start of something, because if Ferrari keep playing games like that, I don't think a friendship can survive that.
Max and Daniel 2.0.
Oh.
But like, if that happens every race, if these team orders keep coming in every race, I cannot see how any friendship can survive that. Genuinely.
Yeah. It's not even them, their egos and like blaming each other and getting angry. It's the team that's going to destroy them. Because again, it all goes back to Ferrari just being idiots.
Yeah, but I think if they were able to race, then I think it would be different. You know, if they were honestly allowed to race each other hard, and the results were coming off the back of whoever won that fair fight, then that's a different story. It's when the team get involved and make calls that are questionable. I know team orders sometimes, you know, you've got to preserve what's best for the team. You've got to do what's right for the team. It's a strategic sport. It's an individual sport and a team sport at the same time. It's complicated. That's why we love it. But when the strategic calls with team orders are coming in, and frankly, they're wrong, or bad calls being made in the heat of the moment and not being fully thought through, that's when it gets really tough to swallow, I think.
And especially if they start going against those rules. Because even though I stand by what Carlos did, if that becomes a precedent, then there's going to be infighting.
You want another multi-21, don't you?
I do want another multi-21. I love multi-21. I love the drama. It's all the drama, Mick. I love it.
The drama, Mick. I love it.
Are we ready to move on to our S's?
Yeah. So we have 3 different S's. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Space hoppers.
Yeah.
The space hoppers. So I'll reveal a little secret about the DRS girls. We've all got a big group chat that we all talk on every single race weekend. The moment Space Hopper Gate happened on Thursday evening, I've not seen our group chat light up so quickly. We were sharing all of the memes, all of the edits with like the close-up view of Lando's face being hit with the space hopper. It was just proper quality moment that really brought everybody together at Lando's expense, unfortunately, poor boy.
The tweets as well.
The tweets were brilliant. It was just so good. And it set the tone for the whole weekend, I think. Everybody came away from that moment feeling like this is going to be a really great weekend. There's going to be so much happening. There's really great vibes. Everybody's really up for it. Yeah. And thank goodness Lando's face is okay. Cause...
I just loved the sibling vibes. Like, I joke about them being like siblings, but I've never seen something that looked more like 2 brothers playing, and then Lando gets hit, and Danny's just like, oh no, what have I done?
I loved how you could see that exact moment where Danny was like, oh no, I'm going to get in trouble. I've really messed up.
It's like, don't tell mum. I'll let you hit me back. It's okay.
It was exactly
Please don't tell
like
Zach. Please don't tell Zach. And then the fact that like Lewis replied to the tweets, they were all getting into it on Twitter. Danny used his 1 tweet a month to tweet about it. And we even got Ferrari on Space Hoppers. We've all forgotten about that already because all anybody can talk about is Daniel Ricciardo throwing his space hopper at Lando Norris, who, I must add, was cheating. He deserved it. He was cheating.
Classic Danny Rick stand there, taking sides.
No, I love Lando too.
He did deserve it, though.
He did deserve it. I don't think Danny realised how close Lando was when he span around, though, and then he was like, oh no.
Oh,
Another thing I want to mention with the space hoppers, though, I don't know if you've seen it because Ferrari did it, McLaren did it, and then Alpine did it, but Alonso didn't want to take part, so David Hill...
Of course he didn't. That's
Damon
so
Hill
funny.
versus Esteban, obviously because Alonso was just like, no.
That's such an Alonso thing to do. That's so funny.
I have this image of my head of them going up to Nando and being like, Alonso, we want you to do this, and him just being like, no.
I get that. I respect that. I mean, I'm quite anti-organised fun myself. I would kind of be like, oh, I don't want to get on a space hopper and humiliate myself in front of Silverstone. Like, come on, guys.
He gives, like, tired dad energy. He's just like, no, I just got here. I've been arguing with the wife and kids. Let me just have my moment. Like, that's the energy I get from it. Not like, oh, this is embarrassing. He's just done. He's tired.
Let the kids have their fun. Of course, Esty was up for it.
Of course he was. He's always
Is there anything
smiling.
he isn't up for it?
Another S, the 360 spin for Max.
Yes.
That was cool.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
Okay, this is my S. This is it. This is everything to me. Now, I know that everyone was quite happy he did a spin because everyone was a Hamilton fan and they were just happy that it messed up his lap. But I was happy he did a spin because it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And it took off such a small amount of time out of his entire run. Apparently, it was just about made a dent. He did a perfect 360 spin. He hardly slowed down. He made it look easy. And then did you see the interview afterwards when they said that to him and he went, I was just warming my tyres up.
Max is maturing in such a great way. Like, I feel like he knows when to take things seriously now and he knows when to sort of have a bit of a joke about it and not take himself so seriously all the time. So I love that response from him. But yeah, incredible. Like, he would have been on pole had it not been for that.
Did you get to see that spin?
Just about, yes. We saw it out of the very corners of our eyes. It was amazing. Like, the spray that came up from it was incredible. And again, like, just the skill that these drivers have, I think we need to appreciate the sport. There's 20 people in the world that are doing this. We're talking about Latifi. We're talking about certain drivers not being as good as they used to be, what have you. But you still have to appreciate that to drive these machines, they are incredible talents. They might not be as good as the other 18 or 19 people doing it, but they are still great drivers. To see Max regain control like that so quickly and not even flinch, he was just so in the zone. Proper great psychology behind it, I'm sure.
The ability for your brain to process what's happening and to tell your body what to do to fix that at such a short amount of time, I mean, it's incredible. And I've always been a fan of Max. That fix he did in Brazil, I can't remember what year it was.
Yes, when he was just starting, wasn't it? It was really early in his career.
Starting out, and I always think back to that because you can see what he does with the wheel and how he fixes that. I haven't actually watched the onboard of his spin from Saturday yet, and I actually want to do that because seeing how they react and how they move the wheel to fix the spin, I mean, it's reminiscent as well of that spin that Seb did in Baku to fix himself back onto the track. The control these people have over their cars is insane.
And then to not only just spin, but to then go and complete a storming lap and not let that faze you at all. He's on another level. Like, you can't even deny that that is incredible talent. And I agree, like, going back to that moment that he had in Brazil very early on in his career, I remember that happening. I remember thinking, wow, this guy is the real deal. He's not here to mess around. He's seriously talented and he's got a future ahead of him. And yeah, turns out that was right.
It was cool though, because I remember when we were watching it, everyone was like getting slower because the tires are wearing in, it was raining more and more. But at one point it was like he was a whole second ahead of everyone else. And it was just mental.
He just kept going purple, didn't he? Everyone was slowing down and it was like purple, 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 purple.
What the hell?
And the boos were awful. I'm really looking forward to the next race because regardless of who you support, I don't agree with booing people. So the boos in person were insane, and I'm sure they were very intense on Sunday, but I'm sure the Dutch fans will give it back just as hard next week.
Now, we have one more S. I'm going to propose, and it's not really S, it's kind of cheating, but Charles.
Because, Charles.
Like, in the past few races, like the past 6 races or something,
he's had terrible luck.
He's had a terrible run of form.
Let's play a quick game. Off the top of your head, what do you think was the last Grand Prix that Charles won?
Oh, no.
See, I need to think of what the actual Grand Prix were.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Jeddah. Was it? I don't know.
Close. It was Australia.
Oh.
Which is the third race in.
Yeah, there you go.
Charles has only won 2 races. In my brain, he'd won more, but Charles has only won 2 races so far this season.
I would remember because I love Podium Charles. I love flirty Podium Charles, and I've been missing that so much.
Flirty Podium Charles. It's the wings, isn't it?
Carlos was doing a bit of that at the end.
He
had the little eyebrow raise and like winking. I was like, oh, look, see, he learned it. I want to see Charles happy again. Or Charles, if we're sticking with the S. But he's so hard on himself. And I really want him to get a good result and just be like, no, I can still do this. Like, the championship's not over. I know Max has a strong lead, but after Silverstone now, the gap's kind of come down a bit.
But it could have gone down more.
Yeah, I know. He was lucky to get points.
Do you know what? I know we're only like halfway through the season, not even that. And this is a really bold claim to make. I think Ferrari's lost it.
I know. I don't want to say that, but I do agree.
They need to have a real reckoning. I think over the summer break, they need to have a real step back and a real think about what their aim is for the rest of the season, because they just seem really disorganized. They don't really know what they're doing. They're making decisions last minute. And I know a lot of that goes on. You know, that's the nature of the beast, right? They're making decisions, snap decisions all the time. But it seems like sometimes they just sort of lick their finger, hold it in the air and go, we'll put him on hards. And there's no other rhyme or reason as to why they do it. So they need to have a serious think about how they're going to conduct themselves.
Here's the thing, right? When you put it into perspective, besides those couple of DNFs at the start of the season, name me one bad decision that Red Bull has made so far. Exactly.
Good question. Yeah.
Good question.
I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have. But what I'm saying is, it wasn't A, significant enough, or B, regular enough to be at the forefront of my brain. I'm sure they've made bad decisions. If I think about it,
I don't see Ferrari capable of pulling off a strategic game plan like they did for Checo's win, for example. That was something else entirely. I can't imagine that for some reason for Ferrari.
Red Bull have just been so smooth. Other than those DNFs at the start, they've had a very reliable car since they've fixed that. Obviously, there was an issue with Max this race, but that wasn't actually the car's fault. That was just a bit of rubbish on the track. But, you know, they've got two talented drivers. They've got a strategy that seems to work every single time. They've got a second driver and a first driver, which is important, I think, because Carlos and Charles, despite you'd think Charles being the first driver, there isn't technically a first and a second driver there. And I think that when you look at Max and Checo, as much as I hate to say it, Checo knows his place.
Yeah, but that's something I think I said in the very first episode. That's what's going to bite Ferrari in the bum, is the fact that there is no first or second driver. And everyone's like, yeah, but Charles is the pep boy. But at the same time, Carlos is still up there with him. So,
and if you keep having things happening like happened at Silverstone, they're going to have points, but they're never going to have a champion.
That's exactly
because they're going to end up fighting each other. And I know that technically Perez is up there as well with Max, but Perez is still playing the teammate. You know, I think the only times that he's won, he's done so because Max couldn't get past it.
Yeah.
So I think that Red Bull have just got their strategy sorted, their drivers know what the expectation is, and the car seems to be running smoothly, touch wood. So I do think, unless something changes dramatically, Red Bull have got this in the bag. And Ferrari have absolutely ruined it with their own strategy. Ferrari have ruined it for themselves because they've got the best car, I think. Ferrari have got the best car, but it's not reliable and their strategy is awful.
It's just very unclear. Like, it's very much just, we'll figure it out along the way. And it's like, no, that's not right. You should have had this sorted out at the start. And you adapt, not you figure it out. You adapt, but they haven't.
Shall we do quick predictions for Austria this week?
Oh, yes. Okay, I want to go first. I think Lando, I don't know if a win is possible. It would be poetic justice. But I do think Lando's going to do very well and potentially get on the podium. Because this seems to be one of his best tracks.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that's a hope, I guess. But honest God, I do think Lando's going to do well this week. We've seen how close he was in Silverstone. How good is he going to be at a track where he's already gotten 2 podiums and a fastest lap?
True.
I hope we see a Lando podium.
I would love a Lando win. I really, really would. I think there's an argument that Lando is the best of the rest at the moment, and I'm not just saying that as a Lando fan. I think there's an argument there. I think there's also an argument for Alonso as well, being the best of the rest, but I think Lando has consistently been the best of the rest, whereas Alonso sort of come out of nowhere and become the best of the rest suddenly. But that car, that McLaren, does it have a win in it? I don't think it does.
I'm not sure it does have a win in it. I think it's just not quite there. It definitely has moments of brilliance, but it's just not there. And I think we're going to see good performance from the Red Bulls this weekend. I think the home ground advantage for Max is going to help.
Yeah.
I'm saying it right now, Max will win.
Max, Charles, and I'd like to say Lando.
Do you know what's interesting to think about, though? If Charles won, I just reckon the Dutch fans would still cheer for him. I think they would still be happy.
No, they wouldn't.
Honestly, if it was Lewis, they would boo.
Yeah, I think it'd be less of an insult if Charles won.
He's so sad now that, like, I think it would be nice. Yeah. Everyone would be like, it's just nice to see Charles back in form.
No, you're right. I don't think they'd be happy, but I don't think they'd be sad. I think people want a fight, and at the moment, it's not a fight.
I think give Charles the summer break. I think let him go off, regroup, get back into the game. Not that he's out of the game by any sense of the word, but I think he needs some time to step back, take a breather, let the frustrations go, and find the fire again.
And dare I say it, Charles, just be your own person and start telling Ferrari what to do.
Give Danni a multi-21.
Please.
Yes.
I'm not even joking, though. I feel like there's got to be a point where if they are saying these awful strategies, you've just got to say, I'm not doing that.
But the thing is, Charles does have full-on conversations while driving. They all say, okay, copy that, or, yeah, let's stick to this. And he'd be real like, yeah, honestly, I'm not really feeling it, guys. Like, Charles, just shut up and just do something. He talks for ages, and I love his radios. Like, whenever there's a Charles radio, I'm like, oh, here's a whole conversation.
What is it he said when it's like, your ideas are not in line with what I think, or whatever?
Yeah, your suggestions are not in line with what I feel. Rather than saying, I don't agree.
I love it.
Poetic.
But I'm really hoping that Carlos has had his moments where he's gone, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm hoping that emboldens Charles a little bit to go like, hey, it worked for Carlos. Next time I don't agree, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And what are they going to do? If he wins and it comes out, then, oh well.
If he is the Ferrari golden boy, then they can't get too angry with him.
No.
All I'm saying is, what was stopping him during that safety car from just going, I'm pitting, get me tyres ready. I am pitting.
And this is the thing, I think Ferrari need to understand that they've got two very good drivers driving for them at the moment. Charles is not a baby anymore. He's an established race winner. He's got a good bit of kit under him. You need to listen to your drivers as much as your strategists. I think the interplay between the two is really important. That's what ultimately wins a race, because there's got to be so many variables that all converge at one point for somebody to win a race. And to make that happen, you've got to listen to your driver. Ultimately, if the driver's in the car saying, I'm capable of more, or I'm not feeling the car is where it needs to be, then you've got to hear them and you've got to help make it right.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think we should make like the McLaren boys and call it a day. Thank you very much for having me for the first time, ladies. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for being here. We love you.
Yes,
Lexi.
thank you.
Thank you. I've had a whale of a time, so I'll be back for more if you'll have me, I'm sure. So we've been the Drag Reduction Sisters. Please check out all of our socials. Tell all your friends. And let us know, what did you think about Silverstone? We'd love to hear what you've got to say. Join us next time. We'll be dissecting the Austrian Grand Prix. I look forward to seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.